So I got this AWB OneSky telescope a while back, and I've been loving it. But I would like to look at the sun, and since it's got this telescoping arm, I need to create some sort of shroud to cover all these open areas before I can safely do that. I'll be using this solar filter sheet, which was designed for this. Here is some more information if you're interested. The first thing to do is build a model of the telescope to work off of. So I took a few photos and measurements, and here's a time lapse of me putting that together. This isn't perfect, but it should be good enough for what I need it for. Now I can start designing the shroud using the telescope model as a reference. I'm self-taught with all this, so I'm sure I'm doing everything in the most difficult way possible, but I'm pretty happy with what I came up with. So let's go over the parts. One design constraint I have is the size of my 3D printer. I'm limited to about 210 millimeters, or about 8 inches in vertical height, so I had to split the main body of the shroud into two pieces. This is the base, designed to sit directly on top of the main tube there. This is the main body of the shroud. You can see I had to add a slot down the side to accommodate this rod that holds the secondary mirror in place. That takes us to the next part, which is this little plate that covers the bottom half of the slot. The top half of the slot is covered by this eyepiece part. It clips into place over the eyepiece cylinder that closes the remaining gaps in the shroud. Now we get to the solar filter. My plan is to just sandwich the filter under this ring and hold it in place with some screws that thread directly into the plastic of the main body. I made this stencil to cut the solar filter to the right size, and lastly I made this cap that magnetically attaches to protect the solar filter when not in use. Now I just need to print these out. Nothing ever works first try, so rather than printing these massive parts and potentially wasting a bunch of plastic and time, I printed only the critical portions of each part and tested those, just to make sure my tolerances were good. And after a few tweaks, I printed the whole assembly. Once all the parts are printed, I could test fit the entire assembly, and everything looks good. I printed everything in black PLA+. If you don't know, PLA melts and degrades pretty rapidly in the sun, especially with darker colors. So I decided to paint the outside of everything white, so it will hopefully absorb less heat and not melt. I debated using white filament, but my white filament seemed kind of translucent, and I didn't want to take any chances of light making it through the walls of the shroud. So here we are. I just did a couple coats of primer and then a couple coats of white. Now I'm using the stencil I printed to cut a piece of the solar filter. Now I can test the magnetic lid, and it works great. Magnets are so satisfying to incorporate into projects like this. I've used it a few times now, and it works great. There are a few things I would change if I was to make another one of these though. Firstly is this slot here. It's just unnecessary. The tolerance between this inner and outer ring are just sufficient to block the light. And I know that because when it's assembled, I miscalculated the length of this bottom part, and so it doesn't even fully close anyways, and it blocks all the light. So I would just get rid of this whole thing. It adds unnecessary complexity. The second thing is the filter itself. I got the strongest one I could find, rated for well over 100 times magnification, and I think it is blocking too much light for me to get much detail on my scope. Since my favorite eyepiece for looking at the sun gives me about 92 times magnification, I think I'll try a slightly less opaque filter that's rated for up to 100 times magnification, and hopefully I can make out some details in the sun better. Although it was a lot more work, I'm glad I went with the decision to use black PLA and paint it. I printed the lid in white because it doesn't matter. It's light absorption, doesn't matter. And I didn't feel like painting more pieces. So as you can see, a lot of light makes it through. And then same wall thickness here, but absolutely nothing makes it through. So yeah, I think that was the right decision. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or are interested in any future projects, let me know in the comments.